The Little Ice Age. This book will provide a detailed examination of the Little Ice Age and other climatic shifts. But before I embark on that, let me provide a historical context. We tend to think of climate as opposed to weather as something unchanging, yet humanity has been at the mercy of climate change for its entire existence, with at least 8 glacial episodes in the past 730,000 years. Our ancestors adapted to the universal but irregular global warming since the end of the last great ice age around 10,000 years ago with dazzling opportunism. They developed strategies for surviving harsh drought cycles, decades of heavy rainfall, or unaccustomed cold, adopted agriculture and stock raising, which revolutionized human life and founded the world's first pre-industrial civilization in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Americas. But the price of sudden climate change in famine, disease, and suffering was often high. The Little Ice Age lasted from roughly 1300 until the middle of the 19th century. Only 2 centuries ago, Europe experienced a cycle of bitterly cold winters. Mountain glaciers in the Swiss Alps were the lowest in recorded memory, and pack ice surrounded Iceland for much of the year. The climatic events of the Little Ice Age did more than help shape the modern world. They are the deeply important context for the current unprecedented global warming. The Little Ice Age was far from a deep freeze, however, rather an irregular seesaw of rapid climatic shifts, few lasting more than a quarter century, driven by a complex and still little understood interactions between the atmosphere and the ocean. The seesaw broad cycle of intensely cold winters and easterly winds then switched abruptly to years of heavy spring and early summer rains, mild winters, and frequent Atlantic storms, or to periods of droughts, light northwesterly winds, and summer heat waves. Reconstructing the climate change of the past is extremely difficult because systematic weather observations began only a few centuries ago. In Europe and North America, records from India and tropical Africa are even more recent. For the time before record began, we have only proxy records reconstructed largely from tree rings and ice cores, supplemented by a few incomplete written accounts. We now have hundreds of tree rings records from throughout the northern hemisphere, and many from the south of equator, too, amplified with a growing body of temperature data from ice cores drilled in Antarctica, Greenland, and Peruvian Andes, and other locations. We are close to a knowledge of annual summer and winter temperature variations over much of the northern hemisphere going back 600 years. This book is a narrative history of climatic shifts during the past 10 centuries and some of the ways in which people in Europe adapted to them. Part 1 describes the medieval warm period, roughly 600 to 1200. During these 3 centuries, Norse voyagers from northern Europe explored northern seas, settled Greenland, and visited North America. It was not a time of uniform warmth for them, as always in the Great Ice Age. There were constant shifts in rainfall and temperature. Mean European temperatures were about the same as today, perhaps slightly cooler. Hai đoạn còn lại đọc sau. Okay.